Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of The Source. Continuing on with college football week 5. Got a good one here. Nice ACC matchup. Clemson's on the road coming off that bad loss, a game they should have won against Florida State. Now they're in Syracuse, and Syracuse is catching a full touchdown at home, +7. Total sitting at 53.5. Let's do it.
Welcome to The Source. The Source. Hey, get the Source.
So like I said, this line's Syracuse +7, and the public's all over Syracuse. Super public dog. Line hasn't moved at all that I can see. Update. So right after I finished recording this video, this line moved to 6.5. So it's now Syracuse +6.5. Still a heavy public dog. We'll have to keep an eye on this one because it's crazy. Everyone's betting Syracuse here. So we'll start with the head-to-head matchup history here. Clemson has taken 5 straight. Got to go back to 2017 to find the last time Syracuse beat them. One thing we do have to take note of, though, Syracuse plays these guys tough. +7 would have covered in 4 out of the 6 matchups. Only 2 blowouts in there. So let's talk about Clemson, and we got to bring up last week's game against Florida State. That one really pissed me off. My 2 big losses on Saturday, I had a good day, but my 2 big losses were Clemson and UCLA. UCLA, I was just flat out wrong. Utah was the right side. I was on the wrong side. It happens. But Clemson was especially frustrating because watching that game, I felt like I had it right. I felt like Clemson was the better team that entire game. Dude misses a 29-yard field goal to win it. And it's true. I mean, Clemson did control that game. They outgained Florida State 429 to 311. They won the time of possession battle. Klubnik was okay, not great. I mean, he did make some mistakes, but he wasn't terrible. Run game was definitely there. Florida State couldn't run the ball at all. I think they had 20 carries for 22 yards rushing in the game. Clemson had it. I mean, they had a fumble that turned into a 60-yard return touchdown, and then the missed 29-yard field goal, and then they lose in overtime. Shit happens. It's gambling. Shake it off. Move on to the next one. The question I have, though, about this Clemson team in this matchup against Syracuse, how are they going to respond here? Because, let's face it, entering the season, you got to think most of the players on that team were thinking national championship, playoff run. That's kind of dead now. 2 losses already, both in the conference, one of them at home. You got to think their playoff hopes pretty much died with that game against Florida State. And then you got to consider on the other side, Syracuse, they're in a complete opposite spot. Things look great. They're 4-0 with 4 decisive victories. They've completely dominated every single game they played. Now, they haven't had the toughest schedule so far, but a 15-point win on the road in Purdue, that's solid. I mean, vibes are high in Syracuse right now. And if you remember last year's game, I remember it vividly. I had Clemson -14. I was way off. Syracuse had them on the road in Death Valley. They were up 21-10 in the 4th quarter on Clemson. Clemson makes the switch at quarterback. They bring in Cade Klubnik. They bench DJU. Clemson comes back to win 27-21. Now, it's important to take note because you may look at that game and be like, oh, Syracuse had them and they blew it, which kind of is true, but you also have to take note that Clemson turned the ball over 4 times in that game. They were definitely the stronger team. They kept gifting points away. But this year, in my opinion, the gap between Syracuse and Clemson isn't quite as big. Obviously, Clemson has the way more talented roster, but Syracuse has a top 40 defense this year, and I think it's going to continue to improve. Their defense was pretty good last year. I think they finished like 42nd, something like that. They had a pretty good defense last year. They brought back a ton of production. This is a good, experienced group. So last year, they played a 27-21 game on the road in Clemson. This year, at home in Syracuse, with a better defense, I guess our next question would have to be, what do we think of the Clemson offense? Do we think the Clemson offense is better this year than it was last year? Now, personally, I think the answer is yes. But analytically, it's saying the opposite. So far this year, they're worse. I'm sure the Duke game is heavily skewing those numbers, though. In the Duke and Florida State games, Clemson combined for 81 carries, 357 yards. That's 4.41 yards per carry. Now, is that bad? No. But the way Clemson recruits and the talent they have on that offensive line, that's not good enough. Now, Duke and Florida State both have underrated defenses this year. I'm not saying 4.41 yards per carry is garbage, but we're talking about betting this game right here. Clemson is 7-point favorites on the road in Syracuse, a team that I think should be ranked in the top 25. The reason I liked Clemson last week is they were catching points at home, and I was like, wow, they're finally pricing Clemson properly. They're finally pricing Clemson as the team they are, not the team they were. They have one good performance against Florida State, a game they still ended up losing, and we're right back to laying a full touchdown on the road against a good Syracuse team. In case you're unfamiliar with Syracuse, in case you didn't follow them last year, quarterback Garrett Schrader, he had that team 6-0. They were undefeated. They go on the road into Clemson, and they were up 21-10 in the 4th quarter, like I said, about to go 7-0 with a road win over Clemson. Now, Clemson comes back and wins. Okay, 6-1 with their only loss on the road against Clemson. But then the next game, Garrett Schrader gets hurt against Notre Dame, and Syracuse season goes up in smoke. So some people will just look at Syracuse season last year and be like, oh, they were 7-5. They were an all right team. That doesn't tell the whole story. That doesn't describe how Syracuse season went. This year, Garrett Schrader is healthy. He looks great. They're beating up on everybody. And I can assure you, this Syracuse team does not think Clemson's the better team. They know that they had this team on the road in Death Valley last year and gave it up. And like I said, Syracuse is towards the top of the FBS in returning production. It's mostly the same roster as last year. And they see everyone's treating them as a huge underdog at home here. They think they can win this game straight up, which is why I have to do it. I absolutely hate that I'm taking such a public dog here. But at a full 7, I feel like I'm going to have to take the points. I didn't actually bet this one yet, but there's no way I'm going to lay 7 points on the road with Clemson. I'll make my final decision on Saturday morning, but definitely I'm not on Clemson. It'll be Syracuse or pass. So for the video, give me Syracuse plus. If you want my top bets, parlays of the day, if you want to join our Discord, or if you want to get in on the NFL Against the Spread weekly giveaways, head over to KyleKirms.com. All the information is right there on the homepage. College football week 5, a lot of good matchups, a lot of value on the board. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in Discord.